What do you suppose our project is for today? Yeah, we got to install all that baseboard. We're going to install it up against that wall, and I like this baseboard. It's MDF, and I got some 16-foot long pieces here. Look how long these suckers are. And the reason why I got two long pieces like that is because I have two long walls. There's one long wall, and here's another long wall. And on my long walls, I like to put the longest piece of baseboard I can. That way I don't have as many seams. Looks way better if you don't have any seams on long walls. So this MDF, I got 16 feet long, and these walls are a little less than that, so that's going to work out perfectly. Then I got some shorter walls, and so I got some 10-foot base, and I'll cut that up and piece in on these short walls. But even on the short little wing walls, like that one there, right here, I've got a little column to do. And then I got another small wall there. You getting dizzy yet? Here's another small wall over here. Well, I like to measure my baseboard in such a manner to where once I add it all up, I get the right lengths of base in increments so that I don't have any seams. You know, for a small job like this, you can do that. If you got a really super big job, maybe let's say you got an entire house to do, I just get all 16 footers. You know, something like that. Get all 16 footers, use your long ones, and then you'll start getting some short ones. Then use up your shorter material and try to do it without hardly any joints at all. That's the best way to do it. Well, how are we gonna cut this base? Last time I showed you how to use a back saw and a little plastic miter box, and you might have laughed at that, thought that was kind of cheesy, but you know, if you got a small little job, you could do something like that and it won't cost you very much for your little miter box set, and there's a way to do it. But if you got a bigger job, you can always get this. And this is an electric miter saw. It's a compound miter saw, which means you can cut different angles at it and swivel that around, and we can tilt that saw blade over at a 45-degree angle or any type of degrees angle. And this is something good to use, especially for this tall base, because I cut inside corners on my baseboard and things like that. When I like to do that, I like to use a saw like this that'll cut all the way through. Now, if you don't have a saw like this, you don't have to go to the store and buy one for your job. You could rent one of these at a rental yard, and I don't know how much they cost to rent for a day, but you know, if you got a job that maybe it's going to take 1 or 2 days, you might want to think about that before investing in a large tool like this, especially if you don't know when you're going to use it next, you know? This is a big time investment. Now, if you're going to be trimming out houses and doing that kind of thing, then obviously you need to get a saw like this, and it will pay you back 10 times over before you even think about it. You know, but if you're just do-it-yourself project handyman type person and you're not going to use a saw like this very often, you might want to think twice about buying something like this. Rent it or use a different type of saw, kind of like what I showed you before, to cut baseboard like this. And like I say, if you only got 4 or 5 walls to do, you know, you can get by with a little hand miter box saw like I showed you before. It'll work. It takes you a little while longer, but you know, if cost is the issue, you can get by that way. But today, I'm going to show you how to use this. Now, I didn't want you to think we were going to cut inside the room. I've got hardwood floor down here. First thing, we'd get dust all in here. Even if you had a little dust catcher for this, I wouldn't recommend using this inside over this hardwood floor. you're going to get dust all over the place, and then it's going to get slippery. And you could have an accident walking around, slipping and falling, or whatever. Plus, you're going to have to mop up the floor 2 or 3 different times to get all the dust out of this room, as well as all the dust that's going to get on our brand new walls. So I'm going to take that and I'm going to set that up outside. Always set up a saw kind of like this outside if you can. Now, if I didn't have a hardwood floor down here, or any carpet or any tile, whatever, if this was just a subfloor, obviously I'd go ahead and probably set it up in here. It just depends. You know, think about it. Think about your job. If you just got brand new paint on this wall, maybe you don't want to get all the dust on these walls. So you probably should still cut outside, you know? But if you're doing trim and stuff and, you know, maybe you talk to the painter. Maybe the painter wants all the baseboard installed first before he paints the walls. And then he's going to do the baseboard last. Or he'll cut it in or whatever. You know, you just have to kind of work with your different contractors and find out how they want to do your job. You know, if you're doing it yourself, you're going to have to make those decisions yourself. Okay? So on this particular project, I'm going to go ahead and set this up outside. Now they do have another saw that's kind of like this, and it's on a slide. You can fold it down and then you can cut it, and instead of just chopping off your trim. You know, if you had a piece of, if you had something, let's say 12 inches tall or something like that, then you fold it over and you can pull it through your material. They've got something like that at the store too. They got all kinds of stuff, but you know, for a project like this, this is all we need. Since this baseboard has been painted, before I install it, I'm just going to take my rasp, little wood rasp, and I'm going to take it on a thinner side. There's a rough side and there's a smooth side. I'm going to use a smooth side. I'm just going to knock off the top burrs of the paint along my baseboard. That way everything will be up nice and tight to the wall, and then I can caulk that in at the end. Okay? Prep your baseboard before you get going. I'm going to do all my edges like that before I cut any of it. Now I only have a few pieces of baseboard to do this with. It doesn't really take very long. Just finishes that edge a little bit, because paint, when I painted that, it kind of rolls over the edge and kind of builds up on the back side. I want everything to fit nice and tight up against the wall. And I don't want any rough spots, so when I caulk this top edge, it's going to come out nice and smooth.